All right. My name is Becca Matthews. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling in this evening from the Peoria territory in Ohio. I'm a new feminist bird club organizer in the process of starting an Ohio chapter. I'm a fair-skinned white person with dark brown hair, tied back in a yellow headband, sitting with a shelf of picture frames behind me. Tonight, I'm representing the Feminist Bird Club alongside the other organizers of this event, Akila Lewis, Shiloh Felton, and Molly Adams. If you have a question that you'd like to ask them in private, please feel free to private message them. I'll be giving a brief introduction and overview of the program, and then I'll pass it over to Miya, who will go over in detail what to expect during the 30-minute meditation period, and then we will have time for reflection and discussion. I want to draw attention to the slide that's being shared on the screen right now. This is some helpful tips to help make this presentation go smoother for everyone this evening. In the bottom of your screen, you should see the option to turn on closed captioning by selecting the CC Live transcript button. In the bottom left corner, you can mute and unmute yourself and turn your video off and on. We will be recording this, as I mentioned earlier, and so for if any reason you're not comfortable being on video, please feel free to turn that off. If you're having any technical problems, you can send us a message in the chat or private message any of the organizers that I mentioned earlier, and we will be putting descriptions in the chat throughout the event. I want to thank you all so much for being here, and also to those who added a donation to your ticket. It'll go towards providing more free and accessible programs like this in the future. We're really excited to do something a little different from the virtual programming we've offered in the past. This event was conceptualized by the Feminist Bird Club's founder, Molly Adams, after they started participating in breathwork over a year and a half ago. When founding the club, introducing people to birding as a form of active meditation and a way to promote mindfulness and relaxation was very important, especially to those living in urban environments. After they developed long-term complications, COVID-19, that reduced their ability to go birding in a traditional sense, their meditation practice became an important part of their healing process and a way to remain connected with birds. Throughout the last few years, as we all readjusted our lives, birding increased in popularity as a way to bring peace to those during the pandemic. Bridget Butler, one of the leaders of the Vermont chapter of the Feminist Bird Club, wasn't able to be here today, but she teaches a class on slow birding where mindfulness and breathwork are intentionally practiced at sit spots in the field. We'll drop a link in the chat to learn more about slow birding and other examples of mindfulness and birding coming together. We hope to see more in the future. Tonight's meditation will be led by Miya Kishi Dunets, and Miya is a yoga and meditation teacher, a sound worker, Reiki practitioner, singer, songwriter, and psychotherapist-in-training. She's a lifelong student committed to sharing the practices that have helped her to find steadiness, purpose, and peace, and we're so grateful to be a part of that in this space. I'm pleased to introduce Miya and turn it over to her for an overview of what our practice tonight will be like and to get us started.
Thank you so much, Becca. And thank you to the Feminist Bird Club and Molly, Becca, Akila, and Shiloh for inviting me to take part in this practice. I'm really happy to be here with you and grateful that all of you are coming together for this experience. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on what we'll be doing, a little roadmap. I know a lot of us, like to know what to expect, and this might be a new practice for you, or it might be something you do all the time. So just know that you'll have lots of options, and just really listen to your body throughout your practice. And if something feels in any way overwhelming or like too much, you can always kind of back out of it, right? We can just dip our toe in something, and when it becomes too activating, or if something doesn't feel right, you can find something resourcing, right? Something pleasant, something that makes you feel safe to go to, and then maybe come back when and if you feel ready. So that sounds kind of a little bit ominous, and I don't mean it to, but I just mean that, these are powerful practices, right? Breathwork practices can really quickly change our bodily chemistry. So in a lot of breathwork practices, we're drawing oxygen through the body in a different way than we do when we breathe naturally. And so that's really powerful. And meditative practice, getting still, coming into present moment awareness. In this case, that's the style of meditation that we'll be using. That is also very powerful in kind of, you can reshape your brain. You can rewire your brain with meditative practice. And so with that power, right, comes responsibility to honor again our bodies, what's happening for us today, and also to honor kind of the lineages of those practices. So I'd actually like to start, and maybe before I do that, I'll back up and just say, I know that we're describing, what is going on screen for those that might want that description. So again, my name is Miya. Very happy to be with you. I'm a half Japanese, half Caucasian woman. I have long brown hair. I'm wearing a kind of burnt orange sweater, and I'm sitting in a room with kind of a mustard wall in the back and a rug, a nice colorful rug in back of me. So that's what's going on in my space right now. So I thought to begin, so before I give you kind of outline what the practice is going to look like, I wanted to do something that a teacher I really love, Sebene Selassie, many of you may know of her, likes to do in her practices. And she may have taken it from somewhere else, but I want to give a shout out to her and honor her and saying that that's where I kind of am taking this from. So she starts practices with 3 honorings. So the first honoring is of the land. So I want to say that I am sitting on unceded territory of the Ohlone Ramaytush people. And very grateful to be here. This is also, known today as San Francisco. So maybe you just take a moment to sit and just to think about where you are right now and really get in touch with the land you're on, even just momentarily. And if you haven't already done so, it can be really powerful. It's important to acknowledge the original stewards of this land. So you might, if you haven't already, look that up and see who were the first humans that we know rested on this ground. And the second honoring is of our ancestors, or the folks that have been right here, or have been in our family systems, have been in our communities. So kind of just taking a moment, if you want to close your eyes or soften your gaze, you're more than welcome. Or if you want to keep them open, go right ahead. And just feel that sense of belonging in a long history of people coming together in community and practicing. Maybe people coming together to marvel at birds, and just feeling, all those who have come before us and all those who will come after us, right? Those who will be here after we're gone. And maybe that's human and non-human beings. And then our last honoring is of the lineages of the practices that we will partake in. So we're going to be using breathwork practices that are part of yogic tradition. Right? Some of you may have experience with pranayama. And so again, just acknowledging that lineage, acknowledging the teachers who have shared these practices with me, maybe with you, all the teachers that are bringing these wisdom traditions to us, and that we have the privilege of experiencing them. So just really appreciating that. And the meditative practices will be of Buddhist origin. And I want to say that, by no means do you need to subscribe to Buddhist philosophy or yogic philosophy in order to engage with these practices. But it's really powerful and important, vital to acknowledge that these practices came out of specific cultures, specific communities, right, in Asia, in South Asia. and that they've been carried along many currents to us. And to remember when we practice that all of these wisdom traditions also have, a lot of ethical guidelines. It's not just practice. Sometimes when we secularize practices, we take away some of the scaffolding around those practices. So my hope for myself and for you is that as we get introduced to these various practices and maybe we integrate them into our lives, that again, we really honor where they come from, and we get curious about those cultures, about some of the wisdom that's held in the other facets of those cultures and those communities. And sometimes that can really, I think it's our responsibility, but it also enriches the practices. So it can be really beautiful. All right. So now that we've done our honorings, I'm going to let you know what we will be doing. So this is breathwork and birdsong and meditation. So what we'll be doing is we'll be listening to birdsong, and as we listen to that birdsong, we'll be starting with a little bit of activating breathwork. So we're going to have two options for the activating breathwork. The first technique is a pranayama technique called Kapalabhati, or skull shining breath. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you now. Some of you may know it well. It's a sharp exhale through the nose and a passive inhale. So it kind of sounds like this. So that's the breath pattern. And just remember, you are breathing in. So don't forget to breathe in. We're not thinking as much about the inhale, but it's still definitely an important part. We must inhale. The other option is to use a technique that is being used by some modern platforms now. It kind of has its origins, as far as I can tell, in holotropic breathing, which some of you may be familiar with, kind of in the 60s and 70s. There was Stanislav Grof popularized this form of breath work that's really it's an open mouth breath. It can be very powerful. It's very activating. So I would say if you are feeling right now really anxious or angry, I would skip this practice. And sometimes when we're working with trauma also, we don't need our nervous system reactivated. So you might give it a try and just know that this is your practice. You're in charge, so you can stop at any time. So that breath, if you are going to try it, is a 3-part breath. It's an inhale into the belly through the mouth, and then we inhale into the chest through the mouth, and then exhale through the mouth. And so you can, quicken that breath. You can slow it way down, but it is very powerful. And I will say, for both of these activating forms of breath work, if you're pregnant, I would skip it, because we're kind of compressing the abdomen in one, and also activating the nervous system and bringing more oxygen into the body is. We just want to make sure that we're being safe. So just make sure that you're using a technique that feels right for you. The second portion of the breath work will really be about restoration. So it's going to be really simple. We're going to inhale through our nose for a count of 4, and then we're going to try to exhale for a count of 8. And I'll be guiding, but just know, again, this is your practice. And so if you need to shorten, each portion of the breath, you could inhale for 2, exhale for 4, right? We're just trying to lengthen that exhale because it's very soothing for our nervous system. So it taps into the parasympathetic nervous system. It tells our bodies that we're safe. And that kind of restorative breath work and tapping into that facet of our autonomic nervous system really helps all of our organs to run well, because our bodies are most able to kind of function optimally and to heal when we feel safe and calm. And that's not always possible, but we can try to bring that into our practices. All right, so that's the breathwork portion. After that, we're going to do a little bit of mindfulness meditation. So we will be scanning through the body. And I want to acknowledge that being directly in the body doesn't feel good for all of us. And if that's you, I'm going to, mention that we also have, you can find any anchor that feels right to you. So any facet of your sensory experience that you can kind of tap into and then stay with as much as possible. And the hope is that we just keep coming back when our mind wanders into the future and wanders into the past. We just notice, oh, I see this is happening. And then we very gently come back to that anchor. And so we can also tap into sound is a really great one. And that's the option that I'll cue. But, if you have a style of mindfulness meditation, an anchor that feels resourceful for you, then go ahead and do that. Because once again, you are in charge. You know what's best for you. All right. I think that I have said enough. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. We're here for you. You can turn off your cameras if you would like, because, now we've seen some beautiful faces, and we'll ask you, if you feel comfortable to turn your cameras on at the end for discussion or just being in community. But for now, we're just practicing, we're just going inward. And so no need for cameras at this moment. And you're going to either sit down or lie down, right? So whatever feels feasible for your body. And if you need to shift at any time, go right ahead. Just take a position where you feel you have good access to your lung capacity, whatever that is today. I'm going to ask everyone to mute themselves for now. And again, we'll have lots of time for everyone to be in community, but just so that we all have the same kind of audio experience, we're just hearing that birdsong and a little bit of guidance. All right, so just find your way into that comfortable seat. Or if you prefer, you can lie down. Or whatever posture suits you. And as you find that posture, just let yourself arrive. Let's start to maybe take a few breaths, just natural deep breaths. You might close your eyes or soften your gaze. All right, so just letting the muscles around your eyes relax. And if it feels better to keep your eyes open, go ahead and do that. Just soften the gaze so you're not really looking at anything in particular. Give yourself a few more moments to just land here. Right, we're all coming from different parts of our day. We have different lived experiences. And we're also here together in community. And I hope that you can know and trust that you really belong here. And that all of you is welcome. We're going to start that activating breath work. And so you might take a hand to the chest, a hand to the belly. And that has numerous purposes. One of them is to really feel where the breath is landing in the body, right? We feel it as our hands lift and lower. It's also a way to remind ourselves, you're kind of telling yourself, oh, I'm here, right? Connecting the palms to other parts of your physical form. Just reminding yourself, in this moment, I'm okay, I'm safe. So if you'd like to start that open mouth breath, you can part the lips. And again, the pattern is inhale into the belly, inhale into the chest, and then exhale out of the mouth. So the whole breath is through the mouth, into the belly, into the chest, and exhale. Into the belly, into the chest, and exhale. So just continue that pattern if that's the breath for you. The other option is that skull shining breath, right? In and out through the nose, sharp exhale, passive inhale. So it sounds like this. And so the pace of the breath is really up to you. Just listening in to your bodily signals. And maybe you feel like you want a little bit more energy. And you kind of want to meet an edge by going a little bit faster. Or maybe, and maybe especially if that's kind of what you always do, right? If you're always in that kind of doing, pushing mode, then maybe you let yourself rest in a slower pace, right? Seeing what that's like. So these forms of breath work are really good for morning time, right? Or times in the day when we start to feel energy flag. As I mentioned, we're drawing a lot of oxygen through the body. And I like to think of them as sort of sweeping out the cobwebs, the internal cobwebs, right? Sometimes things feel stuck and stagnant. So we need a little bit more activation. We need a way to process that is more somatic and less analytical, less cerebral. Let's keep breathing. If you're in that open mouth breath, there are sometimes some impacts on our bodies, right? Some physiological responses to that extra oxygen running through us. So maybe you feel a tingling, especially in your extremities, feeling hot and cold, maybe laughter or crying, right? Emotional release. So just keep going as much as you can. And again, if there's ever a moment where it feels like it's too much, then you simply acknowledge, this is my edge here and I'm going to back off, right? You can come out of the breath completely, come back when and if you're ready, right? Just breathing in and out naturally. And you can also always slow down the pace of that breath. And here we're using our active breath to keep our minds engaged, right? It's doing something physiologically, and our minds are focused on kind of the task at hand, right? Breathing in a specific pattern. And so there's less chance for that mind wandering, which is very common and natural. And they've done studies that show that roughly 90% of the thoughts we think in a day are kind of the same thoughts, right? It's the same few thought patterns that we just regurgitate and repackage. So we're doing our best to engage the mind so that we stay right here in this moment. And when we stay in this moment, we're more able to feel our own resilience. We're more able to envision possibility. And maybe we feel more resource so that we can really be there in our lives, with our families, with our communities. A little bit more of whichever breath pattern you've selected. And now we'll move on to that more restorative and restful pattern. So just take a nice inhale through your nose. Let's fill up the lungs. Hold at the very top of your inhale for just a moment, right? We're retaining that breath in its fullness. And then long exhale out of your nose or your mouth. Just let that go. Let's do that again. Inhale through your nose. Breath rises. Hold at the top. Exhale out of your nose or your mouth. And now we're going to start that pattern of inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 8. Out of the nose if that's possible. When you're ready, take an inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just continue this pattern. Again, you can always shorten each facet of the breath, or you can lengthen it. And so as I mentioned, this is a technique that taps into the parasympathetic nervous system response. So we're telling the body, I'm calm, I'm safe in this moment. And we're also engaging in nasal breathing, which is a very powerful tool in and of itself. Right? So again, we're pulling on the lower lobes of the lungs. Again, activating that parasympathetic nervous system and also creating a molecule that is a vasodilator. So it helps with circulation. So with every breath in, maybe you imagine that you're taking in whatever it is you need to feel resourced in this moment, right? Knowing that there is a lot going on in the world. And we can come to practice to feel into our true belonging in the community on this earth, our interdependence, our responsibility to one another. And we can come to also find resource so that we can keep going when things feel uncertain or challenging. Just a few more breaths like this. Deep inhale through the nose. And an even longer exhale out of the nose. After your next exhale, you can relax that control of the breath. So just breathe in and out naturally. And so now we'll draw our attention to an anchor. Right, so this anchor is our home base. And as I mentioned, it's very natural when we start to slow down that our minds get very active. So when we come to meditative practice, we're not pushing away all those thoughts forcefully. And we're also doing our best not to live inside of them, right? We learn that our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations in our bodies are all part of us, right? It's all part of experience. And it's not all of us. There's a part of us that can observe our experience, maybe with a tiny bit more distance, and doesn't get quite so caught. So mindfulness practice helps us come out of reactivity and maybe see more possibility and ease. So when you're ready, take your attention to one spot in your body where you really feel your breath. So some traditional points of focus are the tip of the nose, or the upper lip, the chest, the belly. So you might choose one of those spots. Or maybe your breath feels strong or vivid or just present at all in some other part of the body. Just do your best to keep your attention there. And so if being in the body and directly with the breath, I know I said we were going to do a body scan, and we're just going to stick with mindfulness of the breath and try to stay in one place in the body if that feels safe. And if it doesn't, right, if that's not right for you today, see if you can take your attention to the sounds in your space. Right, noticing each and every sound as it arises and passes away. And if you're okay to be with the breath, but you're having trouble kind of accessing that sensation, you might try that same kind of gesture I mentioned earlier, taking a hand to the chest, a hand to the belly. And you might notice how your hands rise and fall. Feel into those points of contact between the palms and your torso. So as you continue to settle into this part of our practice, thoughts are kind of swimming around, swirling around. That's okay, right? It happens. It happens to all of us. If you get gripped by strong emotion or sensation, see if you can just kind of watch it. Just notice it. Notice how it shifts and changes with every moment. And then do your best to come back to your anchor. So it's kind of like we just tell those experiences, hello, I see you, right? It's okay for you to be here. And in this moment, I'm choosing to come back to that home base. So just very gently and kindly come back to that one spot in your body where you really feel your breath or the sounds in your space. And our hope here is just to stay present as much of the time as we can. And we stay present by, again, in this case, tapping into one little facet of our sensory experience, by bringing the mind to where the body always is, right here and now. And practicing doing that with as little judgment, as little worry as possible. Right, so if you start to have any kind of judging or critical thoughts about kind of the quality of your practice, just know you're doing it right. You're here. You showed up. You're doing your best to notice your experiences, right? Those ephemeral thoughts, sensations, emotions as they rise and fall. And you're coming back into the here and now as and when you can. Remembering that this is a practice. So especially if this is something new for you, really giving yourself a lot of grace. And knowing that it takes time to find ease in practice. And even if you find it, it might not be the same next time you come to practice. Breath comes in. Breath goes out. Sounds arise. And pass away. And we're coming close to the close of our practice. So we're going to work with another type of practice, the metta practice. Metta is a Pali word. Pali is the original language in which Buddhist texts were written. Metta is translated as loving kindness. So it's a kind of open friendliness. So we're first going to send that metta just for a few moments as best you can. Send that to yourself. Just acknowledging, right, that you're here. You created time to build a little bit more internal space. So maybe you can maneuver a little bit more easily in your life. Sending yourself as much care as you can. Knowing it's not always easy. So we just try. And when you feel ready, you might start to send that metta outward. Sending it maybe to, first the people you think of initially, the people you love. Sending your care out to them. And then maybe you feel ready to extend that metta a little bit further. Right? Maybe to your whole community, all the folks you know and don't know. human and non-human beings. And maybe eventually, with time, with practice, we get to that point where we can send our metta out to all beings everywhere. Maybe sending some extra care to beings you know are suffering and might need your care and support. Just acknowledging in this moment our deep connection to one another, our belonging to one another, our responsibility to and for one another. You can start to invite in a few deeper breaths and just expand your attention kind of into your whole body, into whatever space you find yourself in. You might find some small movements with your fingers and toes or any part of your body. And if you are lying down, you can very gently make your way to a comfortable seat. And as you make your way into a comfortable seat or stay in your seat, just keep your eyes closed or soft for just a few more moments. You're going to take a few deep breaths together to close. So if you'd like to, you might take one hand to cover the chest, take the other hand to cover that hand. Breathe into the support of your palms. And then when and if you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose. Let that breath rise. Hold at the very top of the breath. And then long exhale out of your mouth, just let it go. If your eyes are closed, you can gently blink them open, allowing light to filter in. You might reorient yourself just by looking around your space, maybe naming objects you see, maybe noticing if there's something that catches your attention. If you are using that visual field, just gaze at it for a moment. Thank you so much for sharing your practice. And thank you once again to Molly and everyone at Feminist Bird Club for hosting this practice and bringing us together.